Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show, highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyles, community, and neighborhood. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Hey, Dorothy, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Did you get out to Veterans Day, the parade last weekend?
I did. It was nice.
It was an unbelievable turnout.
Yes.
And the weather was great, and we are full throttle into the, for my thinking, the holiday season. Thanksgiving is 3 weeks away.
Yeah, we seem to be swinging into it pretty good this year.
Yeah. We had a great show last week, speaking with 4 different groups.
Yes, it was like Grand Central Station in here.
It was.
Kept me busy, though. I like it.
There's so many different organizations, and there's so many different nonprofit agencies in Moore County that deserve a voice and that provide a great service to the citizens of Moore County. A couple of years ago, we had a conversation with Angela Zumwalt, and she headed up the Pet Responsibility Committee and talked in detail about the spaying and the neutering and the caring of animals and pets. And today we're very fortunate to be speaking with Linden Spear, who is a founder and director of the Haven Friends for Life, which is the largest no-kill animal shelter in our area. And our area encompasses a very large geographic region. We're also being joined by Martez Norris, who is a volunteer, a very passionate volunteer at the Haven, and Carol Beard, who's been a volunteer with the Haven for 6 years. You hear the term no-kill animal shelter, Linda, and people don't quite know what that means. They look at you funny. It's not something that you hear people speak about all the time. Tell us a little bit about the background of the Haven, how it started, what it is, and how we got to this point today. Good morning.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with you and to share our passion for companion animal rescue. My husband and I moved to North Carolina about 20 years ago. We purchased a horse farm in Hope County and moved an existing horse business down here. We were raising warm bloods. And the first thing that struck us, because I had to make 6 round trips with my horse trailer to get from Wisconsin to Raeford, was that as soon as we got to North Carolina, particularly south of Raleigh, we started seeing loose animals on the side of the road and bodies. And, my trip from Wisconsin, I went from Wisconsin to Illinois to Indiana to Kentucky, Tennessee. I took some different routes. I went up through Ohio and came down one time. But I really saw a striking difference in the number of loose animals that were in harm's way when I got to North Carolina. So as soon as we started moving here, it was a shock to me, because in Wisconsin, we don't have a temperate climate where strays can survive outside year-round. That's
I never thought of it that way.
But we 20 years ago, we weren't thinking really about leash laws and licensing as much as we do now. But loose animals were commonplace. And when we first moved into our farm, every morning before we would start a vehicle, you always had to check under the vehicle to see what animal had taken refuge under your car before you started it. And also, simultaneous to that, we subscribed to the Pilot newspaper, because we were trying to, find out about what was going on with the horse community. So even though we were living in Hope County, we were immediately, very interested in what was going on in Moore County. And there was a lot of controversy, about companion animal issues. At that time, More Humane ran animal control. And there was a lot of controversy every week in the Pilot about too many animals being euthanized. And, the sad thing is 20 years and it's still front page news in the Pilot that we're concerned.
Yeah.
More Humane has now moved away, and they don't do the animal control program that's been taken over by the county. But it was an issue, and one of the first things we did is I contacted More Humane and said, I've got 140 acres here. If you need fostering to reduce your euthanasia rate, I am more than happy to take the animals in. And that offer was rebuffed. I was told that because I was in Hope County, I couldn't foster animals for More Humane and animal control. So I thought, well, okay. And so I did more exploring. I found out about the no-kill movement. I went and I visited Best Friends in DeKalb, Utah, which is nationally one of the most famous no-kill shelters and a real leader in the no-kill movement. And, it just seemed to me that it was just a profound tragedy and unnecessary that we euthanize adoptable animals. I felt passionately that if you gave them time and visibility and marketed them, that we could find homes for these animals. And 20 years ago, we weren't, animal rescues were not doing off-site adoptions. That was new. We weren't pulling from animal control. That was new. So our shelter really pioneered those things in this area, and we partnered with Moore County Animal Control when it was taken over by the county. And we pulled over 5,000 animals out of animal control.
And this all started by you on your own initiative, adopting these animals that you picked up yourself. You had 140 acres. You just decided to do it.
We started taking animals in. Had no clue what we were doing, but I jumped into the deep end of the pond, made a couple trips to Best Friends to see how they were doing it. Immediately partnered with Dr. Jennifer Seals, who, thank God, was a neighbor of ours, and she was giving us, at that time, she hadn't even had her child yet, but she, then went and homeschooled her child, so she had more time at home than, most veterinarians who are working a 9-to-5 job at a clinic, and she did, worked out our disease protocols, did our emergency work at night, and mentored us in the start, and she's still with us. But then we started, we pulled animals from Hope County Animal Control, from Moore County Animal Control, from Cumberland County Animal Control, and partnered with PetSmart when they opened in Fayetteville. And since that store opened, we've never missed a weekend for adoptions.
So when you talk about animals, are you just talking about dogs and cats?
Primarily. We right now I have potbelly pigs. Really didn't intend to be in the potbelly pig, doing the potbelly pig thing.
Meat,
but they're fun and they need a place. So if anyone out there would like to adopt a potbelly pig, we have several.
Isn't it true? And Martez and Carol, I know the three of us are listening intently to Lindsay. You're a great speaker, by the way. One of the issues with the pet overpopulation is the control, isn't it, of the spay and the neutering, and so that the pets are they're not kind of like out on Broadway meeting their mates. They are sort of controlled. You need to control the population. Martez.
Well,
good morning, by the way.
Good morning to you too, and thank you for having really showcasing the Haven. But also, as Linden mentioned, actually I lived in Minnesota for 15 years, and I had never seen anything like it when I came down to North Carolina, these stray animals. And I think had to do also part of the weather, that just in wintertime they don't survive. But I think it is important to take responsibility, and it's something that I have actually noticed, that there are a lot of people that are not responsible of spaying and neutering their animals. And the fees are so reasonable that they could be easily done, and they could be easily take the animals to the Haven or even Moore County. Even Moore County itself has a program that can help people to make sure that the animal, that if there is a control on the population of the animals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that needs to be really taken into consideration when I think taking responsibility of your animals is important.
Who pays for all this? Who pays for? I mean, this is not inexpensive. Are you independently wealthy? You just have an endowment that...
No. We are supported entirely by donations.
Right.
And we struggle. It is, sometimes it's just amazing that we manage to keep body and soul together. We feed 1,000 pounds of food a day.
My goodness.
Right now we have a population of 650 to 700 animals on the property at any given time.
Uh-huh.
And each one of them needs to be fed. They need flea control. They need heartworm prevention. They need their kennels cleaned. Cats need clean litter every day. The dogs need straw in their dog houses every day. It's
Right.
very expensive.
How many people do you have working at the Haven at any given time?
We try to get by with volunteers as much as possible. We have vets and vet techs who work for us part-time.
Okay.
My husband and I live there and both work there full-time, and we're just volunteers. We try to have, at any given time, at least 8 or 9 people
Mm-hmm.
there throughout the day, and we're there from 7 in the morning to 7 at night,
Yeah.
7
Okay.
days a week.
But just when I
Martez.
add, it's not only the food, you also are all the time, you're updating, upgrading the improvements of the facility, and that's very expensive. It just doesn't happen. So that's why the funds are important for you to raise the money for the upkeep of the shelter.
It's been a huge task because we've had to build the shelter from scratch. This was a horse farm. When we first started, we thought that we could keep the animals in the barn, give the dogs horse stalls, punch a hole in the wall, and give them an indoor-outdoor run.
Right.
So they could go into the stall for shelter and be outside in the kennel.
Right.
Well, then regulations came about, and it became illegal to have the dogs on sand, even though nationally greyhounds who potentially could spread disease because they travel across state lines, greyhounds can be kept on sand, and we're in the sand hills. I could do fresh sand for a day with a bulldozer twice a year
Uh-huh.
for maybe $1,000 a year. But the requirement is concrete or gravel.
Why is that? I don't understand.
You
I mean,
would have to ask the state inspectors
I'm
why they
asking you.
decided
Yes.
why is that? That
to
doesn't make
differ
sense.
from national standards.
Yeah.
But we have spent over $75,000 in gravel, and we still are told we don't have enough gravel.
My goodness.
Gravel mixes with the sand, then it sinks down.
Right.
And we're required to keep 6 inches of gravel in our kennels. And the other issue is when you put a dog out who's not acclimatized to gravel, it hurts their feet. So they're sore-footed for a long time.
Right.
They spill their food on the gravel. It rains. You can't clean it.
Right.
Causes flies.
Right.
It's an issue for rodents. We struggle with it. It certainly is not ideal. But it's very expensive, and we have to keep buying more gravel to watch it sink into the sand.
Oh yeah, that's
How do you get the word out about the Haven? Just through your volunteers?
We do bulk mail. We do Facebook.
Okay.
We have a YouTube channel.
Oh, good. That's big.
Mm-hmm.
Carol, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine today. Thank you.
You've been a volunteer with the Haven for 6 years. How did you and Linden, how did you all meet? How did it all start?
I moved to the area and I wanted to do volunteer work.
Right.
I had seen the Haven group at PetSmart, so I stopped in and asked the volunteers about the job and filled out an application. And I started working every weekend they were there, showing animals to people and learning about the animals and learning about shots that they had up to that point and how to try to find good homes for some of the dogs and cats.
And so you work there 2-3 times a month. You're there.
Usually 2 or 3 times a month.
Yeah. I bet the volunteers are the best recruiters of volunteers.
Yeah.
Eyeball to eyeball, Martez?
Yeah, that's what happened with me. Actually, I was talking to a volunteer with the Haven, and I got involved. There was a fundraiser that was held at an estate in Southern Pines.
Right.
And I got involved in that particular fundraiser. It was like a tax sale. It was a high-end tax sale.
Mm-hmm.
And we did actually have a couple of dogs adopted. This was at Inchylin, remember that? It was over a year ago. And as a matter of fact, actually I did actually come, the WEB, they gave me an opportunity. I talked with Steve Leader Adams, and we talked about it as well, so we had our coverage as well.
Uh-huh.
But also then, I noticed there was actually another friend of mine told me, where's the Haven at the Carolina Horse Park?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's what we started, called the Carolina Horse Park, and they said we can have 4 dogs there. We've been going there since March of this year, and we have only been there about 5 or 6 times. But we had dogs adopted almost every time. One time we had 6 dogs. And what else I want to say about the work that you do on the paperwork, Linden, in that the paperwork was up to date with all the vaccinations and the tag for the dogs. Actually, we have dogs. And we were able to take a dog or send a dog to Canada. And so we made sure, so I want to make sure that the paperwork is okay. We don't want to have anything to happen while they're with the customs. And it worked out. Now we have even a dog in Canada. So there are little things that sort of, and actually I think the Carolina Horse Park, may I add, is a wonderful venue for families to come and bring their children.
Yep.
But another thing is beautiful. That's actually Carol and I, we work together there, and to see the animals when they get adopted. We see them again walking back and forth. It's like having like a new lease on life.
Right.
And the way they behave towards one another is like the ones that get adopted is like they look at the other ones who are still there at the pen and like, I'm gone, I've got my own home. But other things, also stories that we hear back, how wonderful these animals worked, or basically actually integrated themselves with the families. And they just adopted a dog, and actually overnight the dog went into bed and fell asleep with the kids. So it was really, it's very nice feedback that we get from the Carolina Horse Park.
That was a great share, and I love the way, Linden, you were looking at her as she was sharing what she just said. We're going to come back in the second set. We're speaking with the Haven Friends for Life this whole hour. This is All Things Moore County.
I don't know. I've been chased and I've been yelled at. I've lived most my life in fear. But you can call me lucky since I wound up here. Choose me. I'm a good dog, I don't bite.
We're back in our second set talking with Linden Spears, Carol Beard, and Martez Norris from the Haven of Friends for Life. It is the largest no-kill animal shelter in our area and provides a superb service to the community. And there are a lot of issues and problems and expenses associated with this. Linden, it sounds to me like this has to be a labor of love, because this is not a profit equation that you are trying to provide, but you're just trying to provide a service by donating a lot of your time, your energies, your staff, your volunteer staff. The expenses are incredible, aren't they?
the expenses are tremendous.
Yeah.
And we have such an opportunity, but we desperately need more community support.
Right.
We have just finished paying for the property. So for the first time, our community has 140 acres dedicated to the rescue of homeless companion animals. Nobody else has a resource like this, but we've got to have community support to develop it. We want to open a low-cost spay-neuter clinic out there because we have one in Northmore County in Vass.
Yes.
But animals don't know county lines.
Governments do.
That is a spay-neuter clinic that is spaying and neutering thousands of animals. It's a huge community resource, but they're open 4 days a week. They have a long waiting list. Hope County is a rapidly growing area.
Right.
Cumberland County doesn't have a spay-neuter clinic. Robeson County doesn't have a spay-neuter clinic. And animals don't respect county lines. So when the neighboring county has a surplus animal population,
right,
it's going to bleed into surrounding counties.
Where you're located is so close to the southern part of Moore County that, even from my perspective in the real estate business, we have clients who will look in Hope County, who will look in Southern Pines, who will look in Aberdeen. And you're talking about a 10-minute drive.
That's right.
You're not talking about going across the state. I have to ask you this question because I'm dying to. Is being located in Hope County a disadvantage? Do you wish it was? Would it be easier for you if you were in Moore County?
Absolutely. It would definitely help us in terms of our donor base,
right,
if we were located in Moore County, because many people who are animal lovers,
right,
are not fully aware of the impact we have on animal rescue in Moore County.
Right.
We have never, if someone calls and says, I have an animal to surrender, I have never asked them, where do you live? Oh, I can't meet your needs because you live over in that county. We're a regional facility. We're not county.
Well, Martez, you live in the Pinehurst area.
Yes.
And you make the commute willingly, joyfully, into Hope County, and is it 20 minutes?
That's all it takes, maybe half an hour max, and it just really doesn't make about county lines, doesn't make any difference. My goal is to make sure that these dogs are adopted, to
right,
move them on and give them a good home.
Right.
And also the thing is, in the adoption, we would like people to take into consideration that these animals are going to be with them for a long time. This is not a 1 or 2 year thing. Per se, Fort Bragg does have a kill shelter on Fort Bragg. But a lot of, the military, they adopt a lot of animals from the humane, and we want to make sure that when they adopt an animal, that if they go overseas, they can take the animal with them.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, in Germany, they won't accept Rottweilers, bulldogs, or pit bulls because how the Germans used them in the past. So they have very, very strict laws. So I know for a fact that a family adopted a pit bull, and they thought they're going to be staying in this country, and
right,
they were shipped to Germany, and they could not take that dog with them.
You raise a very important point. Different cultures react and respond to animals differently. I used to spend a lot of time in Asia. It's completely the antithesis of what it is here. It's just the opposite. Our culture is very fond of and nurturing towards animals and pets, and there's studies. The presence of a pet is a warm and healthy thing. You have, talking about that, you have a fostering program. Can you talk a little, Linden, about that?
Yes, we do. We are very interested not only in continuing our current foster program, but expanding it. We have puppies that are too young to adopt,
right,
that just need to be home raised and socialized and loved on, given extra TLC. We have animals that come in that have socialization issues. They're fearful,
right,
or that just need some more manners,
right,
and fostering
like
can benefit
people.
from.
just
Sure.
like people.
How long does it take to foster an animal, perhaps a few of them? How
Each
long does it
animal's
take?
different.
Okay.
For example, we currently have 3 litters of puppies that need to be fostered for about 3 weeks. They're ready to be weaned from their mother, but we don't put them up for adoption until after their second round of vaccines. So at 6 weeks, we'd like to move them off to a foster home, and they can be taken in pairs of 2.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a litter of 12, but we're parceling them out in pairs.
This just came up in between the break. A friend of ours stopped in the studio, and she lost her dog about 2 months ago. The dog went outside and got hit by a car. And so you brought up you should, you know, if you want to honor your pet's memory, to foster an animal. I had never even thought of that.
It is a wonderful thing. You know, these animals, they need us. They're entirely dependent on us. And 3 weeks of foster care can truly mean the difference between life and death. The state limits the number of animals we have on the property. So, you know, I just got a call today. People would like to surrender 12 puppies. I have to think, if I take those 12 puppies in, is it going to move my head count up to the point that I've got a problem with state inspectors? But if I had a foster home, I wouldn't hesitate to accept those 12 puppies. There's no question that when they are 9 weeks old, have had their second round of vaccines, or spayed and neutered, that the first weekend I take them out to PetSmart, I will have more people wanting to adopt them than I have puppies to place into those homes.
Right.
The problem is not a lack of homes for these animals. The problem is keeping them until they're old enough to spay and neuter, and not running into an issue with too high a head count.
Right.
So a foster home for 3 weeks is going to be the difference between life and death for these 12 puppies.
Wow.
You know, we don't want them going to an animal control with a high kill rate. We certainly don't want them to be passed out free puppies on Craigslist so that they're the parents of the next generation of animals coming into our shelter system.
Right.
And, you know, that leads me to, you know, another thought. One of the benefits of a high volume no kill adoption program in a community is we're competing with Craigslist. If we can get out and do off-site adoptions in highly visible locations, we become the most convenient place to get a pet, rather than responding to 4 or 5 ads on Craigslist, driving here, driving there, taking the kids, getting the kids excited, and the kids are disappointed, and it's not the right fit, or you get there, the animals are gone. You know, we don't want people trading in animals that are not spayed or neutered.
Right.
And, you know, the Haven will adopt out this year about 2,000 spayed and neutered pets.
Wow.
You know, if we're not there doing our job, then those people are still going to get pets. But it easily could be 2,000 unaltered animals off of Craigslist. And many of them will not be spayed and neutered before their first litter. You know, we still have veterinarians that don't want to spay and neuter until the animals are 6 months old.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, there's always concern about the impact on health for spaying and neutering if you do it too young. But the American Humane Association and the American Veterinary Association has approved juvenile spay-neuters. So typically at our shelter, we spay and neuter males starting at about 8 or 9 weeks, and we spay females at 10 to 12 weeks.
Do you get any county or state funding?
No, absolutely not.
It's all private donations.
We get mandates to make expensive remodeling that we don't know how we're going to pay for, but we certainly don't get funding.
Okay, so it sounds to me like on one hand you have a lot of regulations that are put on top of you, and yet you don't get anything from the
state.
The state, no. The people that are putting the regulations on you, it's all out of pocket.
Absolutely.
Actually, Carol is working on grants, and I have a couple of grants I looked at, but Carol, you have been working on grants, haven't you?
Right. I have found online foundations to apply for help, especially for our vet cost for spaying and neutering the animals, and having enough of them ready to go to the adoptions. But it's difficult to get grants, and we have to apply and then wait 4 months to see if we're approved.
Right. Getting grants, you really have to think outside the box You have to be able to pivot. You have to have a skill set. You have to be creative. It's difficult to raise funds, and there's a lot of competition. Not just with animal-related agencies. There are over 650 nonprofit organizations in Moore County alone.
Wow.
You have to get people's attention, but you do at PetSmart. I've seen the crowds when you have pets that you're bringing up. You've got the families and the kids, and it is adorable because you're right. The kids get so excited, they don't get disappointed because they have a lot of choices. It's not like they just go to see one pet, one dog, or one cat off Craigslist.
May I just also add, if you don't mind,
Sure.
that also we raise funds, not just adoption fees in local businesses, but from tag sales. Every month
Tag sales.
there is a tag sale that's held the first Saturday of every month. And it's held at the NC Self-Storage next to Penske Trucks.
Right.
The place actually is on Tremble Plant Road in Southern Pines. It's off Yetkin Road. And it's done on a monthly basis, as I said, in the first Saturday every month. And there is furniture there, gently used household items. And if you're interested, actually, if anyone's interested in donating, this is donation, so it could be also a write-off. If they could contact Olivia, and her telephone number 692-3969, and they can make an appointment with her. She could look at the furniture and the goods, and she will even be willing to come up and pick up the goods or the furniture and then take them to the tag sale.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
We will put that information into the synopsis.
Lovely.
To call Olivia. I spoke to her. She's very enthusiastic. We're running over time. Okay, we're going to come back in the third set. We have plenty to talk about. Speaking about the Haven of Friends for Life and some very passionate people serving Moore, Hoke, and the surrounding counties. This is All Things Moore County.
I'm looking for a home, and I'll be the best friend you've ever known. Wait and see, choose me. Choose me. I'm a good dog, I don't bite, and I'd love to fall asleep beside your bed every night. Choose me.
We are back for our final set, all about the Haven, Friends for Life. Before we get into some of the stories, Linden and Martez and Carol, just in 2014, we're coming up upon the end of the year. This year alone, can you give me an idea of how many, can you quantify how many animals you have saved just this year?
This year we'll probably rescue, restore to health, and adopt out about 2,000. And my population right now is about 240 cats and about 400 dogs.
That's
so
amazing.
a large percentage of the resident animals are senior animals.
That's a problem, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Because everybody wants a puppy or everybody wants a kitten.
Yeah.
What happens when you have a pet, a cat, or a dog that is older?
It's very hard, really, because actually one of the beauty, when we do go to the Carolina Horse Park, we ask for Linden to at least give me one dog that's much older than the puppies. The puppies, they get adopted. But the older ones, it's just very, very hard. And the sad thing about it is, actually, when you watch these older puppies, they already have been trained in a way. You see, where we have adopted one puppy that was, when we adopted it, this lady actually came. She said, I want an older puppy. I'll call it a puppy, an older dog. And I walked it to the car, and because she had her hands full. And the minute we put that dog in the car, just jumped in and sat in the back seat.
Oh.
When I saw that dog again, she came back again. And this is what's so nice about the horse park. We see these dogs again. So we hear the stories, how they have adapted to their new homes. And she said, I take him everywhere with me because all he does, just open the door, the car door, and he jumps in.
Mm-hmm.
So the other time is, how the dogs, when they have been adopted, with the stories, how they have intermingled with the families and in the community. So these are things that comes back to us, which is good to have. And I like the idea of an older dog finding a home, or dogs.
Oh, sure.
And cats, because I'm a cat person.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. You do things in the community with the pets. It's not that you just parade the animals around for adoption. You try to get interactive with the community so that there are some benefits. You said it yourself that the animals are not a liability, but you turn them into an asset. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. When I first came into the animal rescue field, one of the things that struck me, because this was 20 years ago, animals stayed at animal control. We weren't doing off-site adoptions. There wasn't much activity in terms of private rescue groups and no-kill shelters in the area. I thought it was a matter of marketing and visibility. What struck me was that if you actually met the animal, that you no longer would have the stigma of he's at animal control because there's something wrong with him.
Right.
He did something wrong. There's something wrong with his disposition. When these animals are brought out into the public, you realize this is just a puppy. This is the sweetest 8-year-old beagle who just wants to snuggle on the couch with you at night and share your popcorn.
Right.
This is a wonderful animal.
Right.
This is the kind of animal that you want to tuck into bed with your child, and the child can cuddle with the dog or cat every night. I just saw on Facebook the other day, this pit bull had been in a fire, and he went in again and again, and he rescued his human family and got them all out, and then he went back in and he got the 4 dogs out, and one of the dogs was afraid, so he grabbed him by the collar and he hauled him through the fire to get him out.
Oh.
Yeah. These are wonderful animals, and just because they are temporarily homeless, these animals can contribute so much to our lives.
Right.
They deserve the time they need to meet the right family and make that perfect pairing that gives them finally the forever family that they all need and deserve.
And gives the children of those families the ability to learn about responsibility, loyalty, discipline, all the things that so many of the mentoring groups that come on the show talk about, whether it be through the communities and schools or whether it be by some teachers. The Sandhills Boys and Girls Club is a case in point. They want to capture the kids between 11 and 17 and not lose them. When all those impressions that are made at those ages are so indelible, having a pet is one of the first lessons that I think a lot of us remember growing up as one of our parents' first lessons to us in how to be responsible for somebody other than yourself.
When you compare the animal-assisted therapy model to other intervention models like the athletics model or the mentoring model,
right,
the animal-assisted therapy model has a higher rate of optional attendance. If you ask the kids, where do you want to go, they're going to say, I want to go with the puppies and kittens.
Right.
Or I want to go ride the horse.
Right.
It has better carryover once the program is discontinued. When you're doing a military or an athletics model, you're teaching competition and you're teaching bonding with your group, but you're also teaching them ain't us.
Right.
Instead, with, for example, the juveniles at risk getting animal-assisted therapy programming. You're teaching compassion, empathy. These are traits that will carry on after the program has run its course.
Right.
You still have given them empowerment and character traits that don't depend on the strong mentor still being there. You say, you saved this puppy's life.
Right.
You took him home, you bottle fed him.
Right.
You saw him from being homeless and afraid to you helped him regain his confidence. You took him out to an adoption, and you helped make him brave enough so that he could be charming in the middle of PetSmart and get adopted. You did that. You can, there's an empowerment to the people who are getting the animal-assisted therapy model.
Right.
So again, these animals are a community asset that we really are not doing a good job of using to their fullest potential. And that's why I founded the Haven. It was the idea that, we can do programming at the Haven for senior citizens. They can come out, they can work with the animals, they can socialize with each other, they can, if they're feeling that they're no longer vital and necessary in the community, this gives them a sense of purpose and a reason to get out of bed every day.
Yeah.
If you're a cardiac patient who needs to get out and exercise, come walk my dogs,
Right.
If you are a juvenile at risk, you can come out and do dog training and
Right.
work with the animals. You can come out, if you want to learn to read, go into my catteries and read a book to the cats. They'd love it. There's so much we could be doing with these animals, but it takes community support, and we need a lot more in terms of volunteers who are inspired and dedicated and committed, and we could make our response to our companion animal issues something that the community can point to with pride.
Yeah.
Because we've been stuck. If you look at the newspaper, for the pilot newspaper 20 years ago, and they're saying that we're not doing a good enough job and our kill rate is too high, and 20 years later we're still saying the kill rate is too high, what are we doing over there at animal control? We need a second order change. We need new blood. And it's not just a matter that you want to reform animal control. You want to make a community that has a community-wide solution to the companion animal issue.
But also, though, just
Martez.
not the community, so it's just a state thing that there has to be, this is my opinion, stricter laws where if you don't spay or neuter your animal, not unless it's a special breed, and even then they have to be careful how these animals are bred, then there has to be some heavy fine. New York and Pennsylvania have very heavy fines that if you don't spay or neuter your animal, and then they really come after you. So it is a state issue as well. This is not just a local issue.
Go ahead, Lynn. I have the thought, but you go ahead. I want to be in this conversation.
Spaying and neutering, of course, is critical, and it's something that we truly, truly want to support. And, one of the key ways to do it is to make it so that it's affordable and easy to do. But if you look at the demographics of any community anywhere in the United States, you're going to find that you have more entire families in animal-friendly housing than you have animals being euthanized. There are homes for those animals. Even if we didn't do the spaying and neutering initiatives we're doing, there would be homes for those animals. The problem then is marketing and giving the animals time to connect with those families and giving those families the support to become good pet parents.
Right.
But for many, many years, and we have to be really careful as representatives of the no-kill movement, that, well, of course, over my dead body would I ever release an animal who's not spayed or neutered. It's something that that we do automatically. We don't use certificates. We don't say, come back later. We need, we certainly are advocating spaying and neutering of companion animals. But spaying and neutering has also been an excuse for killing surplus animals. And if you buy that they're surplus animals, then you say, well, some of them are going to have to be put to sleep because we don't have homes. Not true.
Okay.
We have the homes for them.
Okay.
We don't have the financial support and the marketing and the volunteer base.
Let's talk.
But those homes are there.
Because time is short, I want to talk about the marketing. I want to talk about donations. I want to talk about your presence in the community's eye. You have a Facebook page, and you have a website.
Yes.
What is the website?
thehaven-friendsforlife.org.
And you've got a Facebook page. People can go on and like it, and it's probably full of a lot of timely information about the events, upcoming fundraisers. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, you had a pancake breakfast at Applebee's.
Yes.
And I hope you had a great turnout. I was not able to make it, but it was something we talked a little bit about.
Yes.
But is Facebook the best way people can keep up with you on a day-to-day basis as to what's going on if they want to get involved?
Yes.
Okay.
Our email address is thehavennc, so it's TheHavenNC, 2 N's, @gmail.com.
Okay.
If you want to volunteer, let me know. Call us. Our phone number is 910-875-6768.
Okay.
We're there 7 days a week.
Okay.
We're open by appointment. We have limited staff out at the shelter, so we ask that people who want to adopt animals schedule an appointment because, of course, our first priority every day is caring for the animals. We need to make sure that we're not doing so many appointments that, somebody is out there waiting to be watered.
Couple of things.
Add, if you don't mind, if anyone wishes to donate to the Haven,
yes,
could they send the money to 400 Fulford, McMillan Road, Raeford? I can't remember. What is the...
28376.
28376.
and all that information is on the website.
And you can donate online as well.
And you have a $1 per day program?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, we keep an average of 650 to 700 animals at the shelter every day.
Okay.
And what we ask is that the community sponsor a slot for an animal. For $1 a day, you can support the daily care of an animal. Flea control, heartworm prevention, kitty litter, clean cage, lots of good quality food and water.
Okay. I'm going to do that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I want to do that myself personally. I'll do the $1 a day program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Every month, we get...
Martez is writing it down. She's got my social security number and my mother's maiden name.
Okay, good. So I could charge it to your account.
That's right.
It is a rare month that we have 40 people subscribe to the $1 a day program.
Really?
Despite, begging on Facebook.
You have, in your career here, you've rescued a lot of animals. Is there anything that stands out? There have been probably some that have stood out in your mind's eye more than others. If you would like to share that, I'd love to hear it.
Oh, I'm going to be weepy. I'd like to tell you about my first rescue, which actually happened before I'd even moved to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing the horse business, and I was participating in a clinic down in Mexico.
Okay.
And we were in San Miguel de Allende, and we would play with the Andalusians during the day, and then we'd do the hot tubs and the tourist scene at night. And there were stray dogs everywhere. And I started feeding them. So I would buy tamales from the street vendors and share tamales with the street dogs. And one day, a dog that I'd really been working on befriending disappeared. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've made him social enough and brave enough that he was caught by animal control. And he's,
right.
I didn't do him a service by feeding him. I got him killed. I made him lose his street smarts. The clinic that we were teaching finished for the weekend, and on Monday, 2 of the participants in this clinic from Germany came to show us the dog that they adopted. And it was my dog.
Oh, wow.
And I just want everybody to know, that dog got vetted and went home to live with this family in Germany and live happily ever after from being a little Mexican street dog. You don't know the impact of whatever it is you can do. Everybody can do something.
Mm-hmm.
So do something.
Mm-hmm.
Not to decide is to decide.
Right.
And if we just have everybody contributing what they can join the $1 a Day Club. They can donate household items to our tag sale. When the neighbor is thinking of adding a pet to their family, they can say, well, go adopt. Go adopt from the Haven. Go adopt from somebody. But go adopt and save a life. Everybody has something to contribute. You don't know. Nobody should hesitate because they think that the impact of what they're going to do is going to be too small.
Right.
Because it isn't.
Yeah.
So can I just add something that what when your work in Mexico, my nephew's wife, she's from Argentina, and she actually she founded a program, and she worked with the government. And from what started, the animals, they were really treated badly.
Mm-hmm.
And she has saved thousands and thousands of animals, cats and dogs, for what she started about 4 years ago. So you brought back memories about the story.
The story that the three of you have told today is very compelling. One of the tickets to get in here has to do with passion. And we've had, over 5 years, we've had a lot of shows, and one of the common denominators of the best shows are the people who come in with the most passion and the most credibility. So you guys have hit the mark big time. Carol Beard, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with your work with the Haven.
Thank you very much.
And Martez, thank you for organizing and setting this up. All good comments. And Linden, thank you so much for your passion. It comes through loud and clear. If this was a television show, people would only watch it on a big screen. The Haven, Friends for Life, provides a great service for Moore, for Hoke, for surrounding counties. And please visit them, support them, donate to them this Christmas season because it's a 12-month business. It's not just a holiday thing. And do something. The $1 a Day program sounds like a wonderful thing for people to do. Go to Facebook, The Haven Friends for Life. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Bill, for bringing this program.
We will see you next week. This is All Things Moore County. Thank you very much.
I need a home, so won't you please choose me? I was born in a back alley about a year ago.